I'm Madison.
And I'm Emily.
Welcome back to another episode of BookSmart. This month, BookSmart is going to be interviewing Sally Green,
a personal favourite author of mine. She's written the famous trilogy Half Bad, which I think I would really recommend to all of you. It's really great.
Let's roll the interview!
Hi, Sally, and thank you very much for agreeing to be interviewed by us. I think it's a real honour. I loved your books, thought they were brilliant. So, did you always want to be an author? And if not, what made you interested in writing?
Hi, Rosina. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and to be talking to you. I wish I was there, though. We're still stuck in these little homes on Zoom and everything. But anyway, did I always want to be an author? No. It only came to me quite later in life. I think, in fact, actually, when I was your age, when I was at school, I had no confidence in my imagination, I suppose I would say. I actually studied sciences and at university, at A-level and university. And I think it's because at school writing, I found it, the fear of the blank page was always just too much for me. And I think as well, I've just gained in confidence, and I think as an author, you really have to have, I don't care. I definitely do care what people think of my writing, but I'm much more strong and able to withstand criticism of my writing. When I was a teenager, it would have just been too much if somebody, I let somebody read my work and they didn't like it. Whereas now I'm much more sort of capable of saying, I know not everyone's going to like what I write, but hopefully some people will really like it. That's great. And, I'm equally, you can't please all the people all the time. So I've just matured, I suppose, and I know what I can do. But I worked for years. I've worked in completely different industries. I worked as an accountant. I then started a family. I've done various other jobs. And all of that feeds into my life experience and my writing, I feel. So I don't feel like I've lost anything by not starting young. The great thing about writing, you can do it, at your age or my age or older. So,
well, obviously, the last year has presented unique challenges for all of us. Not least the fact that we're doing this interview on Zoom rather than in person. But do you think the lockdowns of the last year have affected your creativity in any way?
Yes, I think it has. I think we were all shocked. The first lockdown was a real shock. By coincidence, though, I was planning on having a year off. And actually, in March 2020, the first week of lockdown, I did the final copy edits of the third book of the Smoke Thieves trilogy. So I was on the very last bit of the work of that book, which was the final book of the trilogy anyway. So I planned on having a break after that. And I've written one book a year, which actually is quite hard work, or I find it hard work anyway. So I planned on having a year off. I'd also planned on travelling and doing getting it. But anyway, the travelling bit didn't happen, but the year off bit did. But I was shocked at how I actually couldn't even read that first lockdown. I think, like lots of people, we were just getting our heads around the situation. Since then, how many lockdowns later, I think I just got used to it a bit more. And I did. It was pretty much I took a year off writing, but that's great for me because now I feel like I was raring to go, so I've started something else now. But yeah, I did take a year off, and I think I would have struggled if I'd been in the process. But it fell at a point that was actually didn't really affect my output anyway.
So reading your book, The Smoke Thieves, for me, one of the main draws was the characters. So I enjoyed reading about their adventures, particularly Tash. She was my favourite. But do you have favourites of your own characters? Are there any that you just really don't like?
I don't think there's any I don't like. No, I think I do have favourites, definitely. And they tend to be characters like Tash, actually, who she's just an easy character to write. For some reason, some characters are easy. I don't know why. And I always look forward to her writing her chapters because I knew they just flow from the pen so much easier. There's a lot of dialogue in her sections, which I enjoy writing, and they're fun. So you get uplifted. I think you have to be I have to be in the mood when I'm writing. Like I sort of imagine I'm Tash, so I'm that feisty little girl. So, it's a lot more fun than being some of the other characters, I suppose. But I do love them all. And even the awful ones, in a way, the awful ones are equally great fun to write, I don't want to be too spoilerish here, but Harold, the younger prince, who turns out to be a sort of interesting character, shall we say, in the third book, I had just great fun with him as well. So I don't think there's any particular sort of good or bad makes it sort of more enjoyable or less enjoyable. I think the warning sign for me as a writer is if I get bored, if I find the character boring, then I'm fairly sure the reader's going to find the character boring as well. So that's just an alarm bell that you've got to do something about this here. You've got to change them in some way. But I'm really pleased you liked Tash. She is a big favourite of mine, and I think a lot of people as well.
So obviously The Smoke Thieves is written from the perspectives of several different characters. And what do you find are the benefits of writing a book in this way, and what are the drawbacks?
The drawbacks are numerous. My own brain began to explode or melt at various points, I think. It's incredibly difficult, and I will not be doing it again, or at least not for a long time. I love lots of characters, so that's why I decided to do it. But I have to admit, I had no idea how complicated it would be in terms of weaving. I've got 5 characters, weaving their stories to get the balance right from the reader's point of view, to give enough of each character, and to get them all to fit at the right point. I tell you, my brain was frazzled. So that's the drawback. I mean, it is great fun, and I love lots of characters. So I enjoyed lots about it, but there were equally times when I just wanted to curl up into a ball, basically, and sort of pretend it would go away. But I'm now writing something that's from one character point of view, and it's so wonderfully straightforward. It's great.
So do you base your characters on real people? Can you think of any examples of characters that are based on people you've met?
I certainly would absolutely deny that's anything to do with any person I've ever met before. Certainly no relatives or friends. But I am influenced. Yeah, I mean, all the time you're influenced by people. And I think certainly for the Smoke Thieves, and not somebody I've met, but certainly Catherine, for example, was inspired by Catherine the Great. And I wanted to, and actually, I don't do a lot of research for my writing, but I did read quite a bit on female royal queens, princesses, whoever, characters from the sort of Middle Ages onward, up to Catherine the Great. Because I wanted to get a feeling of what those women, how much power they had, in what was definitely a man's world at those times, how much power they had and how they controlled their power. And Catherine Grace is a brilliant example of somebody who was very young I think she was about 15 when she sort of, I think, got the ambition to realise I could rule. I could do quite well here. And I think realising her husband was completely useless. So just say, hold on, I can do a job better than that. So I just thought, I find it very inspirational to see, truth is often stranger than fiction. Women have achieved so much in the past, and still do. And so those characters I call on them to sort of think, this is realistic. You could argue, the Smoke Thieves is yes, obviously it is fiction, but I want to base it on some reality that, it could happen. She could do that. Catherine could rule, could lead an army, could do various things. I'm trying to think of other characters, but that's certainly the main one from the Smoke Thieves.
And for you, what's the most difficult part of the writing process? Which bit do you find the most enjoyable?
The difficult one, anything to do with planning. I'm hopeless at planning. I do try to do planning, but I invariably fail. I think the problem is I find it really boring when I just think, I don't know. It just doesn't inspire me. I find endings difficult. But the things I love writing I love writing dialogue, I suppose. So any sort of things where there's pace in and banter, and I can really get the characters to come to life. And I think the whole process for me, especially writing, I suppose, is the opposite of planning. Is what I enjoy, is when I suddenly think, oh, right, of course, that's what they do. And if I was planning a story, I wouldn't have thought of that. But I sort of find I'm writing it down and I think, of course, they're going to go into the demon world or whatever it is. Of course they are. So I just like it when the character leads me on and I suddenly find, oh, yes, they're showing me what's going to happen. And that's one of the best things about writing.
And what's the most valuable piece of advice that you've been given about writing? There's so many things. I studied creative writing. Once I started writing Half Bad on a bit of a whim, a long time ago, and about 10 years ago. And I actually wrote the first draft of that story, which was very different, but it had a witchy element to the story over the summer. And then I thought, it's not such a bad story, but I need to learn to write a lot better here. So I did an Open University course in creative writing. So I've had a huge amount of advice from all over. And I've read, there's numerous writing books as well. Stephen King's, I suppose, on writing is one of the famous ones. But there's another one. I think the biggest hurdle for me to give me confidence in my writing was talking about not being afraid of where you're from. And using that experience. I was very nervous when I started that I'm from the northwest of England. I'm from Lancashire, born in Lancashire, live in Cheshire. And I was very aware that there aren't many stories set in this part of England. And I was sort of like, oh gosh, am I going to have to set it in Oxford or London or something? And then I was reading a book of advice on this, and to actually use that element of where you're from and really draw on it as the voice of your characters, which I've definitely done, certainly did for Half Bad, and certainly not be ashamed of it, but actually be proud of it and use it. And that was the best thing that I think gave me confidence, thinking, oh yeah, I can do this. Plus I also discovered a few more writers that actually do come from the Northwest and who have successfully written about those areas. But,
apart from the Brontes, I suppose. There weren't many, I thought, to start with, but there are an awful lot, actually.
Speaking of half bad, we've heard that Netflix are going to be turning it into a series. Could you tell us a bit about that? How's that going?
I can't tell you very much, but yes, I'm delighted to say they are doing that. There's a fantastic scriptwriter who's actually doing the script. Script writing is a very different skill from writing a novel. And I wish I had that skill, but I don't. So they've got a great script writer, and I believe they're recruiting for the key roles. They have already done that, and they should be started filming this summer. So I'm hoping it will appear on your screens sometime in 2022. As with all these things, you're just nervous that something else is something else. There can't be anything more serious than a pandemic, and they seem to be going through that. So hopefully it will happen next year. Yeah, it will appear on the screens next year.
Well, I'll certainly be watching. What do you think your influences are writing-wise? Are there any authors who you think have influenced your style? When I write, I actually don't read a lot when I'm actually writing, because I think you pick up influences all the time, and you end up, or I find out, oh gosh, I'm writing like the author I'm reading at the moment. Actually, I have the books here that I was thinking about. The two big writers who I particularly love and would love to think I was influenced by, though I don't think my style's the same, but Hemingway's short stories, he's probably not very fashionable at the moment, but I love his style. It's a very poetic style. It's very sparse. I just think he's amazing for his short stories. And Kate Atkinson is another author I really admire. Again, I think partly because she's from the north, and she sets quite a few stories in the north, and she has this wonderful ability to mix a graceful literary style with humour. I think she's amazing. There's lots. I don't know if, as I say, they've actually directly influenced me, but I always enjoy reading their work, and hopefully can pick little things from them that I can try and, in my own little way, try and copy. And finally, you mentioned earlier that you'd take a bit of a break from writing after finishing The Smoke Thieves. But could you give us any hints about anything you might be working on at the moment?
No, I can't give too many hints. No, I am writing at the moment, but as I say, it's a really simple story. Oh, it's wonderful. From one person's point of view, a female character's point of view, and I'm starting it in the present day. And so far, so good. Yeah, it's great fun to be writing again. I enjoyed the break. I definitely needed a break, but yeah, I love writing and coming up with new characters. But I'm afraid I can't say any more than that at the moment. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time. It's been very interesting. And like I said, I'm a very big fan of your books. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosina. It's been great.
And I'd like to say a quick thank you to my friend Rosina for a wonderful interview with Sally Green. And remember, for a chance to win one of her books, leave the hashtag BookSmart down below.
Let's have a look at some book reviews from our friends. Bye!
Hi, my name is Valerie, and the book that I am recommending for you is Lydia by Natasha Farron. It's a reworking book of Pride and Prejudice. The reason why I love this book is because it teaches women how to fight.
Hi, my name is Mia, and this book is called All About Mia by Lisa Williamson. I like this book because it's a great read about reality, and it also shows that not all families are perfect.
I'm Sophie, and I'm going to talk about Boys Don't Cry. It's based on reality, and it's quite nice to read because lots of other people have experienced the stuff this character went through.
Hi, I'm Lula and I'd like to recommend The Giver. It's a dystopian novel and it's one of my favourite books.